This is Taeshi, an F-rank adventurer, in a world filled with dungeons, monsters, and magic. When he was a kid, he met a slime named Perun, but he ended up having to leave him behind. After that, years went by and he was forced into a high-level dungeon. And there, he meets his old friend again, who had become a powerful SS-rank slime. Our main character then forms a contract with him, marking the beginning of his epic journey, one filled with challenges and adventures. The story kicks off with Taeshi dreaming about his childhood, remembering the day he said goodbye to his old friend Perun. He cared deeply for Perun, but unfortunately, he had to leave him. Our boy then suddenly wakes up in his classroom, wondering why he'd have that dream right now of all times. A group of bullies walks up to him and starts making fun of him for being a measly F-ranker. They ask if he finished the homework they gave him. Another guy comes over, and this jerk seems to be the leader of the pack. His name is Kasaye. With his blonde hair and rude attitude, he's got that total Kasaki vibe from Tokyo Revengers. This creep showed up just to ramp up the bullying. The jerk then starts casting his magic, and just as he was about to strike Taeshi, a blonde girl suddenly appears and stops the bully's attack, leaving our main character stunned. Her name is Karine, and she chews the guy out, saying that magic is forbidden in the classroom and threatens to tell the teacher. Kasai then tells the girl to get out of the way, saying it's none of her business because he was teaching someone a lesson. At that moment, the bully's friends surround her and start taunting her for butting in where she wasn't wanted. The bully gets furious and asks why she's defending Taeshi, threatening to take them both down together. After that, he starts bragging about being a C rank while she's just a D rank. However, she doesn't back down and challenges the scumbag. Luckily, the teacher arrives just in time and tells everyone to get back to their seats, because class was about to start. The bully then backs off, but not before threatening the two of them, saying they'd regret this. With that, our hero lets out a sigh of relief, as the problem was finally over, for now. The teacher then asks for everyone's attention, because the day's lesson is on the history of dungeons, and he asks the students when they first appeared in the world. Seeing that no one answered, the teacher says that's the common response because there's no precise information. He explains that several decades ago, monsters and magic suddenly appeared on Earth. This completely transformed human society, with some dungeons having good effects and others bad. With this, new opportunities arose and humanity gained a new goal: to conquer all the dungeons. And from now on, they are part of a new history and will gain experience to rank up. And the dungeons are either a new destiny for humanity or just one big curse. At that moment, he remembers a mysterious voice saying that their meeting was both destiny and a curse. This leaves the boy lost in thought, as he feels like he's heard that somewhere before. The teacher then asks why people hunt monsters, and the students answer that it's to make a living, get a job, or find items. An excited student then asks if they can become S-rankers immediately if they go to an SS-ranked dungeon. Hearing about an SS-ranked dungeon, our main character is surprised, because he's been to a place like that before. The other students get super excited about the idea and already start planning to go there, thinking it will change their lives. The teacher's expression turns serious, and he asks if they really know what a dungeon of that level is like. He explains that it's a high-level dungeon that has never been conquered and is filled with S-class monsters. The place is so tough that many high rankers have tried and failed, and low rankers can't even get close to the entrance. With that, he scolds the students for seriously underestimating the danger and thinking it's just another dungeon. The teacher, who is an A ranker, asks if anyone there has ever been in an SS dungeon and calls them brats who don't even know where the entrance is. Then, to everyone's surprise, our hero raises his hand to answer, saying that when he was a kid, he was in one. With that, the entire classroom goes silent, and everyone looks at Taeshi. He then asks if it counts that he went to one when he was still a child. Karen is completely shocked to hear him say that. Meanwhile, the blonde bully glares at him with contempt, not believing our MC's words. The teacher then scolds him, saying he must be confusing the dungeon with a field trip he took with his mom. The other students start whispering that he doesn't need to pretend to be brave since he can't even use F-rank magic. Everyone in the class starts saying he's lying and just trying to show off because he has no way to prove it. Tired of the accusations, our hero slams his hand on the desk and says it's true. He states with absolute certainty that he was in fact in an SS-ranked dungeon. Karen just watches worriedly, not understanding why he's so insistent. Meanwhile, the leader of the bullies glares at him angrily, annoyed by our main character's confident attitude. After all the commotion, class ends, and the day goes on as usual at school. The boy then remembers his childhood and how he used to play happily with his slime friend. Now in the present, he's sitting alone on a bench, feeling nostalgic as he remembers his old friend Perun. Suddenly, Karine approaches, and noticing he's alone, she sits down next to him. She asks if something happened, but the boy says it was nothing major. He was just thinking about the memories he mentioned in class. Just then, the group of bullies shows up and surrounds him menacingly. Their leader glares at Karine with a look of disapproval for being with our hero. One of the goons then asks what the two of them are doing together, but Karine tells him to back off. He then says that more importantly, the boy needs to bring back a photo from the SS-ranked dungeon. Kasai challenges him to take a picture of the place because if he can, they'll believe him. Karen gets angry and threatens to call a teacher, but our MC stops her. He then proposes a deal. If he gets the photo, the bully has to leave the girl alone. The girl is surprised and he thanks her for her constant help, then apologizes. He explains that he wants to help her but also has another reason for going to that place. With a smile, he tells her not to worry, because he's doing this for a friend. The leader of the gang then stares at him for a moment and accepts the deal on one condition. If he fails, he'll become his personal gopher for the rest of his life. The scene cuts, and our hero is on his bike, heading toward his destination. With a determined look, he rides through the forest, heading for the SS rank dungeon. Then he slams on the brakes because he has finally arrived at his destination. He was standing in front of a large cave that leads to the dungeon entrance. He looks up and confirms that he's finally reached his goal, the SS rank dungeon. His face then turns serious, and he braces himself for the challenge that awaits inside. Completely ignoring the danger sign, he enters the dark cave without a second thought. Inside, it was quiet, and all that could be heard was the sound of a water droplet hitting a puddle. With his camcorder in hand, he starts recording everything while calling out for his old friend. The boy ventures deeper into the darkness, calling for Perun and asking if he's around. Suddenly, he hears something and turns around, thinking it was his old friend. But who appears isn't him, but a strange, pink-horned creature that looks like a dog. Sadly, he sits down and asks if the little monster is also alone and regrets arriving so late. Just then, a beautiful butterfly appears in front of him, and our hero smiles as he watches it. He looks up at the sky and says that this place used to scare him as a kid, but now it feels different. He wonders if his childhood memories were wrong because now he feels quite calm. And maybe the place seems scarier because he was small, and he hopes Pirun is okay. A mysterious voice then calls him a weak little human and says he's not even fun. Suddenly, the creature slams the ground and launches him away. He's thrown with force and hits his back on a rock. With that, he's completely wrecked as he screams in pain. But it wasn't over, and the monster unleashes another attack against our boy. The impact of the attack sends him flying into the air again. Helpless Taishi can't do anything. He falls to the ground, completely beaten up, as the creature glares at him, exuding a purple aura. The monster finally reveals itself. It's a giant dragon. With a look of contempt, it calls our hero a weak human who can't even fight back. And Taishi is in complete shock, seeing a dragon in front of him, a creature that is the pinnacle of power. The monster says that a human as weak as him makes it sick. The creature then notices the camcorder that the boy had dropped on the ground, and then it crushes it with its paw, destroying the only proof he had. The giant dragon glares at him and asks what he'll do now without his proof. His camcorder is completely smashed on the ground with no chance of repair. Seeing the boy on his knees completely devastated, the monster calls him worthless trash. With that, our MC remembers all the bullies calling him F-rank trash and all the humiliation he suffered. Tired of it all, he picks up a piece of wood and says his name isn't Trash, it's Taishi. The dragon is surprised by the boy's attitude, not expecting this act of courage. With a defiant look, our hero says that now, he's going to hunt the monster. The creature can't believe it. A mere F-ranker spoke to it that way. It then starts laughing, saying he's an interesting human. However, our boy was resolute and states that he's not running away from this place, no matter what, because he won't run until he finds his old friend Perun. With that, he gets into a fighting stance, and with the stick in hand, he's ready to attack. The dragon looks down on him with disdain, as if looking at an insect. It then launches an attack against the protagonist, sending him flying. Lying on the ground, the boy groans in pain as the monster calls him a fool. The dragon admires his courage and prepares a fireball to end it all. Desperate and on the brink, the boy curses his fate. He apologizes to his friend Perun, but suddenly, a mysterious light appears, leaving our boy surprised as that was an overwhelming power. He looks up and notices that the dragon had been struck by that mysterious light. Taishi simply couldn't understand what was happening, and amidst that shining light, there was a mysterious creature. However, when he tries to see, the brightness blinds him. And when the light finally fades, he looks ahead, trying to understand what had happened. To his surprise, the enormous dragon was on the ground, completely defeated. The protagonist then notices something strange. With that, he slowly gets up and approaches the creature to check what it is. He sees a small yellow slime on top of the dragon's head. The slime looks at him with a surprised face, and in that moment, our boy immediately recognizes his old friend Perun. This makes him remember when he first found the slime during a school field trip. His father had shown him a model of a slime, an F-rank monster. Then his mother calls him, telling him not to be late for the parade. That was his first school field trip, and everyone was watching the parade. Little Taishi was very happy to be watching the parade with his parents. He then becomes enchanted upon seeing a beautiful princess on one of the floats. And to the boy's surprise, the girl, who seemed to be his age, waves at him. Right after, the monster march begins, with various creatures parading by. Next, a large buffalo appears, and our hero thinks it's super cool. But upon seeing it up close, the boy gets scared and asks to see something else. Suddenly, the creature lets out a very loud roar, leaving our boy completely terrified of the monster. He decides to run away from there because he found the monster scary. He then runs desperately through the crowd, not looking where he's going. And in the middle of his escape, he ends up bumping into the girl who was dressed as a princess. She then scolds him, saying it's dangerous to run in a crowd. Our boy apologizes to the girl and runs off without even looking back. The girl is left confused, just watching him run away. Afraid of the monsters, little Taishi simply ran away from the field trip. He ends up getting lost and finds himself on a forest trail. As he walks, he says that he hates monsters. He then kicks a rock and wonders why he's such a coward. The rock rolls away, and our boy finally realizes his situation. He realizes he's completely lost, all alone in the middle of a forest. Desperate, he starts to cry and call for his parents, but his efforts were in vain. And to make matters worse, the sky darkens and a heavy rain starts to fall. Terrified, he starts walking through the leaves while calling for his family. He then comes across something that surprises him. He sees the entrance to a cave and decides to take shelter from the rain. Inside, he notices the rain is getting heavier and heavier. Our hero then looks toward the back of the cave. He says the place looks scary from the outside, but inside it had a mystical vibe. He continues to look at the cave's interior with great curiosity. He starts walking toward the back, exploring the place more deeply. And there, in the middle of the darkness, he finds a small yellow slime. Surprised, he can't believe he's seeing a real slime and decides to take a closer look. But suddenly, a huge buffalo appears out of nowhere, scaring the little boy. Little Taishi is completely frozen with fear upon seeing the creature. He then recognizes the monster as the Buffalo King and wonders what it's doing there. Realizing the great danger, he knows he needs to get out of that place as fast as he can. At that moment, the little slime starts to tremble with fear in front of the enormous monster. The boy looks at the little creature and realizes it's also in danger. This makes him feel terrible as he knows he's too weak to save the little monster. Very hungry, the buffalo stares at the slime and decides it's going to eat it. Terrified, the boy turns his back and flees to the back of the cave. However, he hesitates for a moment. He starts to remember what he had seen on the field trip. He remembers the slime model he had seen. The sign said that slimes are shy and get lonely easily. Mustering up his courage, he finally decides to do something about it. And just as the buffalo was about to devour the little creature, our hero jumps in front and saves it from the buffalo's attack. The huge monster is surprised to see a human there. Taishi asks if the slime is okay and then introduces himself. He says that if they're both just a couple of scaredy cats, then the first thing to do is get out of that place. With that, he runs out of the cave as fast as he can. Even with several monsters blocking his path, he doesn't stop. And even though he didn't know why, he just couldn't leave the little creature behind. The boy then asks the slime's name, and it just says Puron. With a smile, our hero names it Puron and promises that one day he'll form a contract with him. Suddenly, his parents find him and call out his name. His mother then scolds him and says he can't take the monster home because he can't form contracts. She tells him to take the slime back, and the boy is saddened by the situation. His parents comment that he needs to learn that some things just aren't allowed. Back in the forest, he apologizes to Puron for not being able to form the contract. Arriving at the cave, he prepares to say goodbye to his new friend. Before leaving, he offers a piece of bread he had saved for the little creature. The slime eats the bread happily, and our hero feels good about it. With a sad look, he says he's too weak to be able to stay with him. However, the little monster just smiles to try and cheer up its new friend. With tears in his eyes, the boy promises he'll get stronger so he can come back for him. The last time our protagonist saw him, he had a smile on his face. But as he walked away, he noticed that Puron looked a little lonely. Sometime later, he found out that place was an SS-ranked dungeon and was filled with regret. For 6 years, nothing changed. He had no talent or special power and continued to be bullied. The only thing that changed was Puron, who had become incredibly strong. Back in the present, our hero hugs his friend, happy that he's okay, and says he missed him so much. He then feels guilty for taking so long to come back and apologizes for being so late. The slime seems happy to see its old friend again. The boy then looks at the dragon lying on the ground and asks if the little monster was the one who defeated it. He's impressed by Puron's strength and laments still being an F rank who can't even form a contract. The little creature then rubs against his face, trying to cheer him up and show that everything is okay. The small slime then climbs onto his shoulder and seems to be asking to form a contract. Our protagonist explains that he still can't, and that's why they can't be together. Suddenly, the slime starts to glow, and our hero is surprised, not understanding what's happening. With that, its appearance changes completely, and a mysterious screen appears in front of him. Confused by the situation, the young man asks what that is. The screen then shows a contract proposal, asking if he accepts inheriting Puron's abilities. Shocked, he wonders if he can really inherit his friend's abilities. The slime glows brightly, confirming that this was its doing. Our hero then looks to the side, still trying to process the unbelievable situation. With a smile on his face, he decides to accept his friend's proposal. Then, without hesitation, he presses the yes button on the contract screen. With that, a huge explosion of golden light completely envelops him. The energy is so strong that it pushes him back as he screams. When the light fades, he returns to his normal appearance and looks at his hands, confused. He wonders what happened, as he doesn't feel any different than before. Suddenly, our hero remembers an important piece of information. His teacher had explained that you can't form a contract with a higher-ranked monster. The boy then laments being weak and realizes his friend is gone. But to his surprise, Puron appears on his head, and our MC is relieved he didn't leave. He apologizes to the little monster because the contract didn't work due to his weakness. The slime then jumps on his face and transforms into a type of glasses. The impact is so strong it knocks him to the ground as the little creature moves away. Lying on the ground, he asks what the little monster did to his eyes. With that, our hero looks forward, his eyes now different. With his new eyes, he sees a status screen and discovers that Perun is an SS rank monster. He is completely shocked to see that his little friend is of such a high and powerful rank. With a smile, he finally understands how strong his friend had become over all those years. Next, he looks at the dragon and sees that it was SS rank, but with a much lower level than the slime. He then asks Perun if this ability to see information is one of his powers. Suddenly, the little slime starts to drool, leaving the boy confused. The protagonist then realizes what's happening and asks if he wants to eat the giant dragon. He comments that he's seen monster meat for sale before but wonders how the slime would eat something so big. This makes him remember that one of the little monster's abilities was transcendent storage. Curious to see if it works, he asks his friend to store the entire dragon. The little creature then jumps up and starts to swallow the giant monster without any difficulty. Our hero is completely impressed with what he just witnessed. With a big smile, he praises Perun, saying he's amazing and can do anything. He says he's happy to have found him again and that now they'll have plenty of time to talk. As they walk, he asks if Parni remembers the bread and says he always thought of him whenever he saw a similar one. He then says that when they get home, but before he could finish, Perun interrupts and warns him of danger. The little slime goes on high alert and with a serious look prepares for what's to come. Suddenly, a giant creature with a spider's body and a woman's face appears in front of them. The monster stares at them with its red eyes and a sinister smile on its face. To protect him, the slime completely envelops him, and the boy asks if another monster appeared. Scared, he gets up and realizes that with his new eyes he can see its information. He discovers that the creature is the Spider Queen, an SS rank, and shouts for his friend. The slime completely encases him in a protective bubble to defend him from the monster. The giant spider then uses one of its sharp legs to attack the duo. However, the slime manages to dodge the attack with ease, taking its friend with it. Next, the monster shoots a jet of purple venom in their direction, but the slime dodges once again and the venom hits the ground. The purple liquid starts to melt the rock, showing just how dangerous it is. Our hero is completely shocked by the destructive power of that venom. He warns Perun to be careful, as that venom can melt even rocks. The slime then prepares to attack and charges toward the giant monster. With a precise jump, it hits the spider's body with all its might. With his new eyes, the boy realizes that the monster's weakness is its head. The creature then opens its mouth and prepares to spit its deadly venom again. And this time, the little monster is hit head-on by the spider's venomous attack. With that, the venom starts to corrode the little slime's body, injuring it badly. The giant spider roars victoriously, thinking it had finally defeated its opponent. But suddenly, a mysterious golden energy attack flies in its direction. The blow hits the creature's legs, cutting them off and leaving it immobilized. At that moment, the hero realizes that Perun has turned into a weapon for him to use in battle, and that the contract between them had actually worked from the very beginning. The boy then says that now he can understand everything about the giant creature, and with a decisive strike, using his friend as a scythe, he finishes off the monster. After the battle, our hero returns to his normal form, satisfied with the result. With a smile, he praises Perun's perfect plan and tells him it's time to go home together. On the way home, our hero happily pedals his bike with his friend in the basket. He then stops the bike as he has finally arrived home. He then tells the little monster that they've arrived at their new home. With great joy, he invites his friend to come in and see his new place. But suddenly, his expression changes as he remembers something important. His room was a mess and he feels embarrassed for not having tidied it up earlier. In a hurry, he starts cleaning up the mess, asking his friend to wait a bit. On his bookshelf, we see several books and drawings about slimes, showing his passion for his friend. The little monster doesn't seem to mind the mess and looks happily at Taishi. Suddenly, the little creature notices something interesting, and its expression changes. It was looking at a small shrine with photos of our hero's family. Our protagonist then takes a match and lights an incense stick for his parents. He then explains that his parents passed away and that he now lives alone in that place. But with a smile, he cheers up and says that now he's no longer alone because he has his friend. Perun's stomach rumbles, so the boy asks if he's hungry. With that, he goes to the fridge to see if he can find something to eat. But upon opening it, he realizes there's practically nothing for them to eat. The protagonist also remembers that he's spent all his money and has no way to buy food. Seeing his friend's concern, the little slime seems to have a brilliant idea. The little creature then transforms into a cute miniature version of the dragon. Our hero is surprised and asks if he really turned into the black dragon. Next, the slime spits out the body of the enormous dragon right in the middle of the kitchen. This makes the boy remember when the little monster used its ability in the forest. He then gets excited, as monster meat is sold as an ingredient and can be eaten. Curious, he asks how he can get the meat out of the storage. The young man then wonders if he just needs to release what's stored inside. But as he does so, the giant body of the dragon appears in the middle of the city, causing destruction. Desperate, he asks his friend not to release everything and to just get a piece of the tail. The slime then obeys and spits out a perfect juicy piece of the dragon's tail. With the piece of tail on the table, he asks if they can really eat that and decides to cook it. It's his first time with dragon meat, but he figures it must be like cooking anything else. Holding the knife, he's unsure whether to grill or steam the meat. He then tries to cut the tough dragon skin with his normal kitchen knife, but to his surprise, the knife's blade breaks the moment it touches the skin. Our hero is completely shocked by the toughness of that hide. He forgot that the dragon was SS rank and its skin couldn't be cut by a regular knife. With that, he finally understands Perun's strength for defeating such a powerful monster. Seeing his friend's difficulty, the little creature stretches out, seeming to have a plan. The boy then asks the slime to prepare the meat, and it happily accepts. With Perun's help, there was so much meat that he managed to make a huge feast. With several different dishes on the table, he tells his friend to enjoy the meal. The little monster gets super excited seeing all that delicious food in front of it. When it's time to eat, the slime stretches out its tentacles to grab all the plates at once. And in the blink of an eye, it devours everything, leaving the table empty and the boy in shock. Our hero then complains that his friend can't eat the plates along with the food. The small slime seems satisfied but still isn't completely full. The boy can't believe he's still hungry and promises to make more food. He then prepares a new batch of food, even bigger than the last. But in a second, Perun devours it all again, leaving the protagonist desperate. He asks in disbelief if his friend is still not satisfied with all that food. With a smile, he promises to make an even larger amount of food this time. So he prepares a mountain of fried chicken, hoping it will be enough. The night passes as he continues to cook non-stop for the hungry slime. Soon the sun rises, marking the beginning of a new day for the pair of friends. The next morning, he brushes his teeth, worried about the food budget. But he's happy because being with Perun is enough, and he would cook all night for him. Watching his friend sleep, he feels like he's found the family he had lost. With a smile on his face, he promises that they'll be very happy together. Seeing that it's time for school, he thinks he should wake his friend up soon. Suddenly, he remembers the threat he received from the blonde bully. This makes him thoughtful, as he didn't get the photo, and now he'll have to pay the price. He doesn't want his friend to see him being humiliated and bullied at school. So he decides to go to school alone, leaving his friend at home. But the little slime surprises him by waking up and jumping onto his shoulder. The protagonist is happy to see him and says he prepared breakfast with the rest of the meat. The slime gets angry because it doesn't want its friend to go to school alone. The boy tries to calm it down, saying he can't take it with him, and that he'll be back soon. Seeing that he can't convince it, the little monster starts to cry desperately. With no other option, the young man agrees to take him, but with an important condition. The scene then cuts to the school, where we see the duo arriving for another day. Our hero walks through the hallways, trying to go unnoticed by the other students. He then reminds his friend of the promise to stay hidden in the backpack until they get home. But suddenly, the blonde bully appears from behind and grabs him by the shoulder. The aggressor takes him to a corner with his goons and calls him an F-ranker. Without even hesitating, the aggressor shoves him hard, knocking him to the floor. The leader of the gang then approaches and says he was waiting for him. With a mocking smile, he asks how the SS rank dungeon was. On his knees, our hero just repeats the bully's words in his mind. With his hand on his backpack, he says that thanks to him, he was able to be happy. With a determined look, the protagonist thanks the aggressor for the favor. The group of bullies is confused and calls him arrogant for his attitude. The leader of the gang then holds out his hand and demands that he show the video of the dungeon. Our boy stands still, not knowing what to do since he has no way to prove it. Suddenly, he remembers the moment the dragon stepped on the camera, and that his only proof was completely crushed in the dungeon. He then panics as he had completely forgotten about that detail. The young man worries about having to pay for the camera, and the aggressor gets furious. Annoyed, the bully prepares a lightning attack to hit our hero. At that moment, Perun comes out of the backpack with a look of anger, ready for a fight. The bully is surprised to see a slime, the weakest monster of all. His goons also don't understand, wondering why he brought a slime. The aggressor gets furious, thinking our hero is making fun of him. However, the little slime stares him down with a serious and determined look. The aggressor then launches his lightning attack, but a barrier protects him from the blow. The force of the repelled attack sends the goons flying, and they wonder about the power. A voice then calls the guy an idiot and says that power doesn't belong to the bully. She reveals that the power actually belongs to Taishi, who now has a confident posture. The bully falls to his knees, completely terrified by the display of power. The goons run to help him and ask if he's okay and if he got hurt. The aggressor is sweating bullets, with his eyes wide with fear of that aura. From his perspective, our hero looks like an imposing and threatening giant. The goons get furious at the scene and start cursing our hero. Ignoring the insults, our protagonist calmly takes a step forward, and without a second thought, he lands a punch right in the face of one of the goons. Then he grabs the other two goons by the head and says he's talking to their leader now. With a threatening look, he tells the two of them to shut up unless they want a real beating. Our hero then throws the two of them to the ground, and the other students start to gather to watch the fight. Karen then hears the gossip in the hallway about the fight between the bully and the kid who was being bullied. She gets worried, wondering if the aggressor is angry again so early in the morning. Back to the scene, we see our hero standing while the three bullies are on the ground. He looks at the aggressors and says that's exactly how he felt all the time. The protagonist then opens his arms as if trying to explain something. With a sinister smile, he says he now understands the pleasure of superiority and the reason for bullying. The leader of the gang glares at him with a look of hatred and humiliation for being in that situation. Our hero then gives the bully one last chance to apologize for everything. He remembers when the aggressor told him to beg for help just once. Furious, the bully gets up and says our hero is getting too big for his britches. He then grabs the protagonist's arm tightly and starts using his lightning magic. He lunges forward, shouting that he's a scumbag and that he's crossing the line. With a crazed look, our protagonist says he expected that reaction and that this is more fun. Karen then runs to stop the fight, but the boy, with a look of vengeance, threatens to finish the bully. In his rage, he accidentally hits the girl who tried to intervene, making her scream in pain. Our hero is in shock when he realizes he just hurt the person who always defended him. The young woman holds her bleeding arm while the aggressor watches the scene, completely surprised. Seeing the situation, Perun acts quickly and flies like a projectile toward the bully. The slime then wraps itself around the aggressor's body, completely immobilizing him. With that, the bully falls to the ground, defeated, while his goons watch in disbelief. Taishi extends his hand to the injured girl, calling her name with concern. On her knees, she tells him not to do it, not to become like his aggressor. Even though she's hurt, she still believes in him, saying she knows he's a kind person. Her words hit him hard and he hangs his head, feeling ashamed of his actions. The other students start gossiping about him doing the same thing he hated so much. He realizes he was enjoying hurting others just because he got a little bit of power. He apologizes and tells her to go to the nurse's office, but the young woman says she's fine and they should get back to class. The bully gets up, furious, and yells that he won't let this go and that he'll get all of them. With a cold look, our hero prepares to use one of his new abilities. He then says the word seal to activate his special technique. Chains of golden light wrap around the aggressor's body, throwing him to the ground and immobilizing him. On his knees, the bully looks at his hands, confused, not understanding what happened. The goons run to help him and realize something is wrong with his hands. Our hero then explains that he sealed his power and that now he can't do anything. With a threatening aura, he challenges the aggressor to come after him if he wants to break the seal. The bully panics upon realizing his power is really gone. Suddenly, a heavy rain starts to fall, symbolizing the end of the commotion. Our hero then tears a piece of his uniform to help the injured girl. He says it's okay and that he doesn't need his school uniform anymore. With a sad and determined look, he announces that he's dropping out of school that very day. He thanks the girl for everything she's done for him so far and says goodbye. After his departure, the rain stops and the sun shines again at the school. The scene then cuts to our hero in the school office to make his withdrawal official. He is talking to a staff member to finalize the whole dropout process. Meanwhile, in the hallways, students gossip about his sudden departure from school. Someone comments that the bully's group has been acting very strangely since the fight. At that moment, the blonde aggressor punches the table with great force, showing his anger. With a furious look, he curses what happened because now he's powerless. Our protagonist then walks through the schoolyard, now that he's no longer a student. Suddenly, he stops, noticing a familiar presence approaching him. To his surprise, it was Karen, who was walking toward him with a calm expression. The young man approaches and asks if she took care of her injury, and the young woman says yes. With a regretful look, he apologizes again and says he didn't mean to hurt her. She smiles and tells him to stop apologizing because she's already feeling much better. The girl then asks what he's doing there and if he finished the dropout process. The young man confirms, saying it was simple and that it felt like something that was destined to happen. She asks if he's really leaving, and he thanks her for her concern but says there's no going back. The young man explains that she got hurt because he suddenly became strong and can't control his power. He continues, saying he was only in school out of pure ego and that he needs to learn to use his new abilities. The girl then looks at him concerned and asks if he'll be okay on his own from now on. With a smile, he shows her his slime friend and tells her not to worry because he has Pirun by his side. The young woman comments that he's really become braver after reuniting with his old friend. The little slime gets a bit embarrassed but seems happy with the compliment it received. With a confident look, she says she believes in the path he's chosen and that she'll be rooting for him. He thanks his friend for everything and promises that one day he'll repay her for all her help. The girl is happy with his promise and smiles in a very sweet way. She then says it's good that he knows that and then asks for his cell phone number. The young woman tells him to call if anything happens, and our hero saves her contact. With that, she says goodbye and leaves, waving at the young man and his friend. Suddenly, his cell phone starts to ring, and to his surprise, it was the girl who had just left. He answers, and she tells him to save the number and not to forget to return the favor. The young man agrees, and the young woman says she always believed in him from the very beginning. The girl says she knows he was in the SS dungeon and is glad he came back safely this time. Our hero is surprised by her words, while his slime friend seems a bit annoyed. The narration then reveals that the young woman is the heiress of a large corporation and works as a model. That's why she's super popular at school and seems to be from a completely different world than his. The young man then thinks that at least that's what he thought until that moment. On top of his head, the little slime seems very relaxed and is enjoying the moment. Meanwhile, inside the car, the girl looks at her cell phone with a serious expression. With that, she starts dialing a number on her cell phone to make an important call. She then calls her father and asks if her mother is feeling well. Her father reassures her, saying everything is fine and for her not to worry about anything. With a sad expression, she just agrees with what her father said on the phone. But soon after, she cheers up and says she knows things will get better soon. Back to the protagonist, he walks down the street and says they need a new plan. He explains that he's no longer a student and needs to find a job because the cost of living is high. Hearing the noise, he asks his friend if he's hungry and tells him to wait. The protagonist then checks his phone and says he still has a little money for them to eat. With that, the two enter a restaurant and the chef greets them with a warm welcome. Our hero then asks for a table for two, but a very spacious one, because they eat a lot. Sometime later, we see the restaurant owner closing up his establishment. He puts a sign on the door saying the place is closed due to a lack of all ingredients. Outside, the young man walks satisfied and says it's great to have a full stomach. But upon checking his balance, he's startled to see he spent almost all the money he had. With a determined look, he says he needs to find a way to earn money so they can live together. Suddenly, he seems to have a brilliant idea to solve the duo's financial problem. With that, he goes to the Dungeon Association, as it's the only way to get cash quickly. The young man then arrives at the Tachikawa branch of the Japan Dungeon Association. Upon entering, he notices the place is much quieter than he expected. Without wasting any more time, he walks toward the information desk to register. A bit embarrassed, he calls the receptionist to ask a few questions. The man then turns around and greets him, asking how he can help him that day. The protagonist finds it strange to have such a strong guy at the reception and wonders if he isn't a security guard. Suddenly, the man claps his hands loudly, startling the boy. He then apologizes and says he was just trying to swat a fly that was passing by. With a serious look, the receptionist asks again how he can help him. With a nervous smile, the young man says he's there to sell an item he obtained. He was about to say he hunted a dragon, but remembers a news report about monster theft. The news said the government is investigating low-level players selling items from strong monsters. With that, the boy panics because he fits that description perfectly. The employee glares at him with an intimidating look and asks again what he wants to sell. Not knowing what to say, the young man stammers, trying to think of a quick excuse. He's sweating bullets because he doesn't know how he's going to get out of this tricky situation. At that moment, he notices a pile of papers on the information desk, so he changes his mind and says he wants to sell himself to do a mission. The man then asks what his rank is, and the boy replies that he's a simple F. The receptionist explains that they only accept C-rank missions there and that he should go somewhere else. The boy thinks he can't earn money as a volunteer and needs cash for his and Perun's expenses. So, with great confidence, he says he wants a B-rank mission because he can handle one of that level or higher. The receptionist is surprised and asks if he, a simple F rank, really wants to do a B-rank mission. With a smile, our hero confirms and says that he and his friend can complete the mission together without any problems. The man looks at him with a suspicious gaze, not quite believing the young man's words. He then points to the little creature on his shoulder and asks if his friend is that slime. The protagonist confirms and says that with Perun, he can do anything, and asks them to give them a mission. The little slime also seems confident and lets out a little squeak to show its determination. The employee still hesitates, as it's a difficult mission for an F rank and a slime, but the boy insists. With a sad look, he explains that he has no parents, dropped out of school, and needs money to live with his friend. The receptionist stares at him for a moment, processing the young adventurer's whole situation. Suddenly, the man claps his hands again, startling the protagonist with the sudden noise. With tears in his eyes, the employee praises him for not giving up and for moving forward with his strong conviction. He says the association hires people with that kind of spirit to conquer dungeons and live as a ranker. The man then wipes away his tears, moved by our hero's story and determination. With that, he slaps his hand on the counter and says he has the perfect B-rank mission for our hero. The man explains that the request is to collect mana grass in a dungeon and that no fighting is necessary. The form shows that the item is for recovery, and the reward is 4,000 yen per vial. Our hero gets excited because the mission is easy, and the payment could cover months of expenses. The receptionist then says he'll send a map with safe locations and fewer monsters. With that, the young man thanks him deeply for his kindness and promises he'll never forget it. The man introduces himself as Koichi and tells the boy to call if he needs anything in the future. Our protagonist then leaves the information desk with his friend, ready for their new adventure. The employee watches them from a distance and finds the combination of an F rank with a slime very interesting. The scene then cuts to the pair of friends arriving at the entrance of the B-rank dungeon. With the map in hand, he starts to plan the best route for his first official mission. The boy comments that the map is useful because it shows the safe, dangerous, and unknown zones of the place. With a smile, he says that with this, the collection will be much safer and faster. Suddenly, he comes across a dungeon flower that glows when he channels magic into it. The young man is surprised to see the effect and comments on how useful that flower could be for them. He says that a B-rank dungeon must have many mysterious plants and will use his ability to find them. With that, several blue screens appear in front of him and he starts searching for the mana grass. Suddenly, a very loud scream echoes through the entire forest, startling our hero. Surprised by the noise, he quickly turns around to try to understand what happened. And to his surprise, he sees a person with long hair falling from one of the trees. Desperate at the scene, he shouts for his friend and asks him to help the person in danger. The little slime then acts quickly and stretches out to try to catch the person in freefall. Successfully, the little creature manages to cushion the fall and save the person from a major impact. The young man falls to the ground a bit dazed but seems to be okay thanks to the little monster's help. Our hero then approaches and asks if the girl is okay and what she was doing in the tree. The person thanks him for the help, and the protagonist realizes it was actually a boy. Confused by the situation, he asks what the young man was doing up in that tree. The boy then shows a stone and says he climbed up there to get that magic stone. Our hero questions the reason, as the mana grass is worth much more than a simple stone. The young man explains that he's a slacker and that most people come for the grass, so the stones are left for him. Our hero finds it strange that a slacker would risk so much for a simple magic stone. The young man then offers to show where there are more stones, but our hero declines the offer. With that, the long-haired boy says he also knows where to find the mana grass. Our hero explains that he needs 10 vials to complete his current mission. To the protagonist's surprise, the young man says he's seen hundreds of them in one place. Our hero gets super excited because with hundreds he could get rich overnight. With that, he asks the young man to tell him where that amazing place is. The boy then reveals that he heard there are many rare plants in a cave in the unknown domain. Our hero gets excited and wants to go right away, but the young man stops him, saying he misunderstood. He warns that the cave has strong monsters, but our hero says they need a lot. With a confident smile, the young man tells him not to worry because they'll be fine. He then starts walking and calls him Nito-san, inviting him to come along on the mission. With that, the three of them set off toward the mysterious cave in the unknown domain. As they get close to the cave, Nito says it's better to stop because the place is very dangerous. However, our hero and his slime friends seem very confident and ready for the challenge. Suddenly, Perun leaps out of the bushes with a determined look, scaring the two of them. With that, the little slime flies like a yellow bolt of light toward the cave entrance. And in the blink of an eye, the little creature disappears into the darkness of the mysterious cave. Startled by the sudden noise, the long-haired young man asks what happened. With a smile, our hero tells him not to worry and invites him to enter the cave. Inside, the young man starts to feel sick, saying he can't breathe and that the place isn't for him. Suddenly, his clothes puff up in a very strange way, and he lets out a loud scream. The duo then finds a bubble salamander, a G-rank monster lying on the ground. Nito wonders why the monster is there and if something scarier is nearby. However, they discover it wasn't just one but several monsters lying along the path. The young man panics, but our hero says that this is guiding them through the cave. Suddenly, the cave starts to shake, and several rocks fall from the ceiling, leaving Nito desperate. A giant eye then appears on the wall, and the young man recognizes it as a B-rank stone golem. With that, the giant monster begins to form from the rock wall of the cave, and without a second thought, the creature attacks with its giant fist to crush the two of them. Our hero protects the young man and wonders if the monster was hiding when Perun passed by. With that, he gets up and tells Nito-san to stay in a safe place because the situation has become dangerous. The long-haired boy then screams desperately for him not to go because it's too dangerous. But the protagonist knows there's no point in running in a cave and decides to face the stone creature. He then prepares to attack with everything he's got and decides to charge head-on against the giant monster. He then runs toward the stone golem and calls for his friend to help him in battle. The creature prepares to crush him, but suddenly two yellow eyes appear in the darkness. Suddenly, the little slime hits the golem's arm with full force, deflecting the deadly attack. With that, our hero falls on top of his friend, who is transformed into a cushion to protect him. The attack was so strong that the golem's head shatters, and it begins to crumble into pieces. As the monster collapses, the little creature flies into the air, carrying its friend to safety. Nito-san runs over, worried to see if he's okay, but our hero says nothing happened. He then thanks his friend for saving him once again, and the slime seems very happy. The young man is in shock to see that they defeated a B-rank monster and asks who they are. Our hero praises him for knowing so much about monsters and compares him to a high-level hunter. The young man starts to stammer, not knowing what to say to our hero. With tears in his eyes, he says he needs to know about monsters to survive in the dungeon. Our hero is excited about the rare plants, but Nito-san wants to tell him about his past. However, the protagonist ignores him and goes to look for the mana grass with his friend. The young man is shocked to discover that the slime is SS rank and level 777. Our hero says it wasn't luck, but the power of friendship that brought them together. He explains that the power of friendship was the force that made Perun so strong and powerful. Nito-san gets super excited and says their friendship is incredibly cool and inspiring. Suddenly, the little slime stops and seems to have found something important in the cave. It points to a large rock and seems to indicate that what they are looking for is there. The duo then runs excitedly toward the spot the little monster had indicated, and to their delight, they find thousands of mana grass stalks shining in the dark. Nito-san is overjoyed and throws himself into the middle of the grass while our hero calculates the profit. With everything ready, the young man takes his backpack to store the mana grass they collected. He then tells his new friend that they've gathered enough and can leave now. Our hero explains that they could make a fortune, but he also needs the mana grass. But he says the plant is vital to the local ecosystem, and greed can't win. With that, he says it's more than enough and offers for Nido-san to take what he needs. The long-haired boy is touched by our hero's noble attitude. He praises him for being so considerate and says he needs to learn from his attitude. Suddenly, a boar monster appears, and the young man asks if they can form a team. The giant creature then charges with full force toward the defenseless boy. With its red eyes, the monster glares at the young man with a look of pure fury. Desperate, our hero reaches out his hand and shouts the name of his new friend in danger. The creature reveals itself to be a type of minotaur boar with incredible strength and size. Without hesitation, our hero prepares to spring into action and save his friend. He then clenches his fist, ready to deliver a powerful blow against the monster. Suddenly, the creature stops its attack and is surprised by the protagonist's attitude. A beam of light hits the monster's head, catching it completely by surprise. Several beams of golden light hit the monster head-on, making it scream in pain. With that, the enormous monster falls to the ground, completely defeated by the mysterious attack. Our hero then looks at his hand, confused, not understanding what just happened. To his surprise, his slime friend had enveloped the young man in a protective bubble. With that, the protagonist runs over, worried, and asks if Nido-san is okay after the attack. He explains that everything suddenly went dark, and he ended up in that warm, strange place. Our hero is relieved that his friend is okay, and says it was a close call. With a sad look, he thinks that if he had been a little slower, his friend would have been gone. Nido-san then tells him not to be so serious, because thanks to him, the young man is alive. The protagonist then says he never wants to lose someone important in his life again. The long-haired young man is surprised and moved by his new friend's words. With that, he hugs him tightly and promises that someone so important to him will never be gone. Our hero gets embarrassed and says he cares about him, but the young man understands everything. The scene then cuts to the trio back at the Dungeon Association to sell the grass. Nido-san is a bit uncomfortable with the number of people in the place. He comments that even though he always comes here, the crowd is still too much for him to handle. They arrive at the counter and the receptionist welcomes them back to the Dungeon Association. The long-haired young man calls him a monster, and our hero introduces him as the one who helped him on the mission. The employee is moved by how quickly they finished, and Nido wonders why a monster would cry. Composing himself, he asks how much mana grass they got and seems very surprised. The man is shocked to see the enormous amount of grass in our protagonist's backpack. He then asks if they went to the cave in the unknown territory, and the young man confirms. The employee says there should have been a B-rank monster there, and Nido tells him they defeated it. Nido questions the sale, but the hero says he'll only sell a little, and the receptionist is shocked. The man asks if it's true, because defeating the monster means they cleared the dungeon. The long-haired young man confirms happily, but the protagonist says he's exaggerating. With that, the employee says he'll finalize the payment, and Nido celebrates excitedly. The man watches them and thinks he's never heard of a guild tamer defeating a B-rank monster. He then wonders who this F-rank boy who hired a slime really is. The duo is impressed with the huge reward they receive for the completed mission. The employee says it's in the top 5 for the week, and the young man says he'll pay his bills and buy food. The man says he'll be in touch if something comes up, and our hero thanks him for the help. The other adventurers in the room just watch the duo from a distance with great curiosity. The receptionist smiles and thinks he'll be seeing a lot more of that pair of friends in the future. Outside, Nido-san says goodbye and says that meeting them made him realize many things. He explains that life isn't just about him, and that from now on he'll be more true to himself. Our hero encourages him, saying he's sure he'll do very well on his journey. With that, Nido-san promises that the next time they meet, he will have changed. The young man is happy because ever since he met his friend, he's been making many good connections. He then starts planning what he'll do with the money they got from the mission. With an excited smile, our hero invites his friend to go shopping with him. With that, the duo goes to the supermarket to buy everything they need for the house. They take the opportunity to buy some new clothes and even a stylish hat for the slime. Next, they stop by the bakery and are enchanted by the sweets in the display case. Back at home, our hero prepares a delicious meal for his hungry friend. After a long day, the duo relaxes in a hot bath and prepares to rest. Our hero then gets out of the water, completely relaxed and refreshed after the bath. He comments that it's been a long time since he felt so good and relaxed. With a smile, he asks his friend if he's feeling good too. However, his expression suddenly changes as something has made him worried. He starts to worry about school and wonders if Karine is okay after everything. His friend then suggests that he contact the girl if he's so worried. With that, he gets out of the bath but still seems a bit hesitant about the idea. The young man wonders if he should really contact the young woman at that moment. He thinks it might be too much, but then remembers she said he could text her. With that, he thinks maybe it's better to just send her a message. But suddenly, his cell phone starts to ring, leaving the duo completely surprised. To his surprise, it was Karine calling him right at that moment. A bit nervously, he answers, and the girl asks if he's okay. The young man says yes and asks if she's also okay after the fight at school. However, he notices that her voice sounds a bit sad and down on the other end. Excited, he tells the girl that today he managed to complete a B-rank mission. The young man explains that he'll continue to accept missions from the association to earn money. On the other end of the line, the young woman says she's fine too, but then mentions the school bully. Just hearing the aggressor's name irritates our hero, and the girl tells him what happened. She comments that he was complaining about not being able to use his abilities and didn't apologize. The young woman then says she'll make sure the aggressor gets the punishment he truly deserves. The young man gets worried and asks if something happened, as she wouldn't call just for that. With a sad voice, the girl asks about his parents and if they passed away in an accident. He gets a very sad expression, and the young woman asks if that was very hard for him. With his head down, he confirms that it was painful and that it still hurts a lot to remember that day. The girl then apologizes for asking something so personal and sensitive. With a smile, he says he'll live a happy life for his parents and with his new friends. The young woman smiles, moved by his words, and thanks him for answering her question. Suddenly, the girl says she has to go, but the young man realizes something is wrong with her. The call ends, and the scene shows the young woman sitting in a place that looks like a hospital. The scene then reveals the girl sitting next to a hospital bed watching someone. Back in the room, the young man is lost in thought, staring into space with his friend beside him. He then asks his companion if he also felt that something seemed off with the young woman. The little creature also seems very worried about their friend's situation. The young man says he wants to help her, but wonders if he's just overthinking things. Suddenly, his cell phone starts to vibrate on his leg, drawing his attention. With that, he picks up the device and sees that he's received a new message from an unknown number. The next day, the scene cuts to our hero's old school under a blue sky. In front of the principal's office, the young man waits as he remembers his teacher's call. The teacher explained that the principal wanted a meeting about his voluntary withdrawal from school. As he walks through the hallways, the other students start to whisper about his presence there. They gossip about him having cleared a B dungeon and even an SS rank 1 by himself. Inside the room, the principal greets him and says he's heard a lot about him. Without beating around the bush, the man reveals that he wants to cancel his expulsion and have him back as a student. Our hero is completely shocked and wonders if he heard the principal's proposal correctly. The principal explains that Karen told him the truth about the real reason for his departure from school. The teacher says he should have told them about the bullying, but the young man thinks he was ignored. With a serious look, the principal assures him that he will solve the problem, and for him not to worry. He also says that the young man doesn't need to worry about his work at the Dungeon Association. The boy is surprised to learn that the principal is aware of his missions in the dungeons. The man then asks why he hid his power and if his next target is an A dungeon. But the principal laughs and tells him to continue as he is, being a student of that school. The young man realizes it's not an apology, but rather interest in his new abilities. With that, he refuses the offer and says he has no intention of returning to school at all. The man realizes the situation is more serious than he thought and calls for someone to enter. To his surprise, the bullies group enters the room and the teacher says they want to talk. With a cold look, our hero glares at his former aggressor without saying a single word. The blonde guy tries to say something but ends up stammering, not knowing what to say to the young man. On the other side of the table, the principal just watches the scene with a very serious expression. Suddenly, the three aggressors bow and apologize, begging for his forgiveness. Our hero is surprised by the sudden apology from the group of bullies. The principal then asks if he accepts the apology and if he feels a little better now. He even offers to punish the teacher and create the perfect school for the young man if he returns. With a smile, the man says the proposal isn't bad and that he just needs to be the pride of the school. The young man thinks the terms are good and that he could have the school life he always dreamed of. He then looks at the principal with a serious gaze, seeming to consider the offer he received. Sitting on the couch, our hero remains thoughtful while his slime friend seems very annoyed. Suddenly, the little creature starts to emit a murderous aura, as if facing a monster. The scene shows that to the little creature, the monsters were the aggressors and the teachers in the room. With that, the young man touches his friend to calm him down and says he'll consider their proposal. He then gets up and says goodbye, but the teachers call out to him, trying to make him stay. The principal grumbles, annoyed, while the teacher seems desperate about the young man's departure. Outside the room, the blonde aggressor curses our hero with a look of pure rage. Walking through the hallways, the protagonist and his friend watch the other students pass by. With a calm look, he tells his companion to calm down because everything is okay now. The young man apologizes to his friend and says that coming to school brought back some feelings. Suddenly, Karine appears running toward him and calls his name in the hallway. With a smile on his face, he's happy to see her and greets her as well. Now sitting on a bench, the young woman thanks him for his help and is glad everything was resolved. The girl then asks why he's not happy, and he says he's not sure if he wants to come back. With that, she argues that it's better for his future if he graduates from school. The young woman leans in and says she wants to spend the rest of her school life with him, leaving him shocked. Completely blushing, he wonders if that was a confession from such a beautiful girl. Trying to calm down, he wonders if his friend really sees him as someone special. The idea that she might like him as someone special makes him very excited and thoughtful. But suddenly, the girl stands up from the bench with a worried expression while answering her phone. Without saying anything, the young woman starts to run away, and the young man calls after her, not understanding anything. Sitting on the bench, he is speechless and just watches his friend running away. The young woman then runs desperately through the schoolyard as if something bad had happened. Worried, he grabs his things and runs after her, asking what's wrong. He follows her and arrives at a hospital where he sees her talking to some men in the hallway. Tired, he wonders if there's a celebrity admitted there because of the crowd. The girl then talks to a man in a suit who seems to be her father with a sad expression. Suddenly, the young woman falls to her knees on the floor and screams her mother's name desperately. Our hero is shocked and worried to see his friend in such a desperate situation. Sometime later, he is sitting next to the girl's father, who asks if he studies with her. The young man confirms but explains that he's no longer a student, and the man seems to understand. He then recognizes the man as a famous businessman and is surprised to see him like this. The father thanks him for being a good friend to his daughter and opens up about being an absent father. But our hero says that actually she was the one who took care of him and that she's a very kind person. The man thanks him and reveals that it's all his fault, as his daughter was more cheerful before all this. He explains that the girl became sad and discouraged after his wife suddenly fell ill. The father blames himself again, saying he was so focused on work that he didn't notice the situation. With a sad look, the young man is filled with regret upon hearing the man's whole story. With that, the father reveals that the doctor told him to prepare for the worst that may still come. With a desperate look, the father says he can't do anything more, even with all his money. Our hero then listens to everything in silence with a very serious and thoughtful expression. He then says he understands the feeling because he also lost his parents and couldn't do anything. The young man explains that it was during this difficult time that the girl appeared to help him. He remembers when she invited him to study and praised him for being good at math. With a smile, he says that his friend is the best student in math and always gets first place. In the memory, the young woman suggests they share notes and compete on the next test. He explains that those words made him feel like he needed to move forward. And with a determined expression, he says that now it's his turn to help his friend. The father is relieved and says he hopes he always feels that way about his daughter. Suddenly, a secretary appears and announces that it's time for the businessman's online meeting. The man then apologizes to the young man and says he needs to work even in this situation. With that, he asks the boy to stay by his daughter's side because he's going to be a little late. Excited, our hero agrees and almost calls him father-in-law, but catches himself in time. With his hands on his head, he scolds himself for thinking of something like that in a serious situation. With that, the young man opens the room door a little and silently observes his friend. He sees the girl sitting next to her mother's bed with an expression of pure sadness. Outside, the boy sits on a chair with his slime friend on his shoulder. Determined, he wonders if there's any way to help the girl's mother recover. With her head down, the young woman says she really wants to repay the debt she owes the protagonist. The little slime then seems to have a brilliant idea to help resolve the situation. Suddenly, the little creature jumps onto its friend's head to get his attention. With a serious look, the little monster looks to the side as if seeing something important. Next, the slime starts to glow and emit a very intense golden light. An image of a bright blue flower suddenly appears in our hero's mind. With that, he wonders if that could be the solution to the problem they are facing. The little slime then jumps to the floor and starts moving toward a door. With a serious expression, the little creature seems ready to do something important. Suddenly, the slime creates a small plant on its tail to show something to its friend. With a happy look, it turns to its friend to show the small plant it created. Next, the little slime starts to grow and transform into a humanoid form. Our hero is surprised to see his friend in that giant, muscular form in front of him. With a hopeful look, he asks if the plant can really save the girl's mother. Excited, he hugs his friend and asks where he can find that special plant. The little slime then returns to normal and emits a light that shows the plant's location. To his surprise, the plant is located inside a dangerous SS-rank dungeon. Worried, he asks if his friend is okay with going back to such a painful place. With a smile, the little creature confirms and seems determined to help their friend. Suddenly, the girl comes out of the room, and the young man says they're going to get the plant to help her. The young man apologizes for the noise, but the young woman says she's grateful he's there with her. She says he can leave, but the young man insists on staying until her father gets back. With a sad and tired look, the girl thanks him for all the support he's giving. The young man then asks if she's okay, and the young woman says she believes in her mother's recovery. He agrees and says she'll be fine, but thinks about not telling her about the plant for now. With that, he reminds her of the conversation they had on the day he left school. He reminds her of when he promised that one day he would repay all the kindness she showed. With that, he tells her not to forget what he said and not to give up, no matter what. The girl is moved by her friend's supportive words and looks at him with a sweet gaze. With a smile, she agrees with him and seems to have regained some of her hope. The scene then cuts to our hero's house, already during the dark night. While packing his backpack, he asks if they'll find the flower if they go deeper into the SS dungeon. The young man says it might take a while, so they need supplies for one night. With everything packed inside the backpack, he zips it up and prepares for the new journey ahead. Determined, he tells his friend that they need to find the flower as quickly as possible. With that, he pedals through a dark, damp forest with his friend in the bike's basket. He then stops and comments that he can't believe he ended up back in this place again. Standing at the cave entrance, he notices that the place is still as dark as the last time. With that, the young man takes a deep breath, mentally preparing for what he'll find inside. His friend then creates a barrier of light to protect them, and the two enter the dungeon. And right away, a giant reptilian monster emerges from the darkness to attack them with fury. With a golden glow, our hero prepares to deliver a powerful blow against the monster. The punch hits the creature head-on and causes an explosion of golden light that illuminates the entire cave. After the attack, the huge creature falls to the ground, defeated, and our hero lands unscathed. Suddenly, a small goblin jumps from the shadows to try to attack him from behind. With quick reflexes, he uses his backpack to defend himself from the creature's unexpected attack. At that moment, Perun creates a decoy with his friend's appearance to distract the monster. The green creature is completely confused by the decoy and stops its attack midway. Taking advantage of the distraction, our hero hits the monster with a powerful kick, defeating it. With ease, he flies through the cave, defeating all the monsters that appear in his path. After clearing the area, he lands gently on the floor of the dark and mysterious cave. But to his surprise, he comes face to face with an army of goblins and ogres waiting for him. He comments that the deeper they go, the more monsters appear, but he hopes that's a good sign. Without wasting any more time, he leaps toward the horde of monsters ready for battle. With his hands together, he begins to concentrate a huge amount of golden energy. With that, he unleashes a powerful attack called Nuclear Fusion that disintegrates the entire horde of monsters. With a leap, he dodges the remaining monsters' attacks with great agility. He then creates a blade of golden energy and cuts down the monsters in his path. With a final blow, he defeats the last monster of the horde and completely clears the area. Tired, he stops for a moment to catch his breath after the intense battle he fought. Looking back, he sees the bodies of all the monsters he defeated alone. Sitting on the ground, he comments that even with his friend's power, the fight is still tough. Suddenly, the little slime starts to act strangely and looks into the darkness. The young man turns and asks what's wrong with his friend, who seems very alert. The little creature then heads toward a dark and mysterious cave in front of them. The young man feels a familiar presence and wonders what that feeling he's felt before is. And to his surprise, the Buffalo King emerges from the darkness of the cave with its red eyes. The monster then reveals itself completely, showing its giant and terrifying minotaur form. Without fear, our hero faces the creature and shouts for it to get out of his way now. But the creature says that this time he won't be able to escape and prepares for the attack. With a wicked smile, the monster emerges completely from the darkness, ready for battle. The young man is shocked and realizes that the monster's form is very different from the last time. With a threatening look, the creature calls them little rats and says it's been a while. The beast then says they were the only prey that managed to escape and that it will devour them. Without wasting any more time, the monster charges at high speed to attack the two with fury. Our hero is surprised by the creature's speed and can barely react to its attack. He is thrown back by the force of the blow but manages to dodge at the last second. Suddenly, the beast attacks again, but this time using its tail like a deadly whip. To protect him, his slime friend uses its body as a shield and blocks the tail attack. Worried, the boy realizes that the creature's speed is so high that he can only defend. At that moment, the monster attacks him again and he realizes the target was his friend on his shoulder. The creature then manages to bite the little slime and separate it from our protagonist. The monster thinks that if it can separate the little creature, the young man will be a much easier target. With his friend in danger, our hero is vulnerable and is hit by a powerful blow. The impact of the attack is so strong that he is thrown far away with no chance of defense. But even in that difficult situation, he faces the monster with a look full of determination. Luckily for him, his slime friend creates a cushion to soften his fall on the cave floor. With that, he manages to land on a wall and shouts that they will never be separated. The creature mocks him, calling him a rat, and says he will become its prey now. Drooling with rage, the monster promises it will devour the young man's soul, leaving nothing behind. Annoyed, the boy shouts that monsters only know how to eat everything they find. With his friend back on his shoulder, he concentrates energy for a powerful final attack. The punch of light hits the minotaur's face head-on, blinding it with the intense glow. With the direct hit, the creature finally falls to the cave floor, defeated. Tired, our hero says he needs to eat something or he'll end up passing out from hunger. Suddenly, a dark voice echoes, saying they are just a slime and a human. Our protagonist is surprised and looks back, not understanding where the voice came from. The beast stands up with a malevolent aura and swears it will finish them all right there. With that, the monster starts to grow and transform into a more frightening form. Shocked, the young man realizes that the creature has become much larger than it was before the change. The giant then roars at the small human, showing all its power in the cave. The monster's giant hand comes down with all its force to crush our hero. With that, it tries to crush the young man, who protects himself with an aura of golden light. Jumping to the side, our hero manages to dodge the attack at the last moment. The creature gets annoyed and curses him for being able to escape its blows. Our hero then looks at his slime friend in silence, seeming to have an idea. He remembers when he was a child and ran away from that same monster in great fear. But now, with a determined look, he shouts that he will no longer run from the battle. The beast roars and says it doesn't matter what he does because it will swallow him whole. Clasping his hands, he says he will end it all in a single special blow. With that, he floats in the air as golden lightning forms around him. With a powerful shout, he reveals the name of his attack, Thunder of Judgment. The giant monster is surprised and speechless upon seeing the giant monster is surprised and a huge bolt of light descends from the heavens and hits the creature head-on with everything. The impact of the blow is so strong that the beast's mask begins to crack bit by bit. Then the monster's entire body is covered in cracks of golden light. With a victorious look, our hero faces the result of his powerful attack, but the creature still resists and shouts that it won't let them escape, no matter what. With a powerful kick, he hits the monster's face, which screams in pain from the impact. He steps on the defeated beast, which can't believe it lost to a human and a slime. Floating in the air, he calls out to the Buffalo King, preparing for the finishing blow. With a serious look, he says goodbye and uses a sealing technique against the creature. With that, an explosion of energy occurs and the beast screams as it is sealed forever. After the intense battle, he finally touches the cave floor, completely exhausted. With a smile of relief, he throws himself onto the ground to rest after the hard-won victory. Lying down, he calls his friend and complains that he's starving after fighting so much. Sometime later, they set up camp, and the young man prays before eating a large piece of meat. Over the fire, a giant piece of meat roasts slowly, filling the air with a good smell. With sparkling eyes, he gets excited and asks for the food to be ready soon. But the little slime seems a bit sad and worried about something in the cave. Suddenly, the little creature looks to the side and sees some strange mushrooms growing. The young man sees his friend eating some mushrooms and asks what he's doing. Worried, he picks up one of the mushrooms and says you shouldn't eat strange things. A system window reveals that the mushroom is poisonous and grows in SS dungeons. Desperate, he shouts for his friend not to eat that because it's a poisonous mushroom. But the little creature ignores the warning and swallows the mushroom with a look of satisfaction. With that, the young man panics and starts looking for an antidote for his companion. A status window appears and shows that the slime took only 1 point of damage from the poison. To his surprise, the little creature's health instantly recovers, leaving him shocked. With a sigh of relief, the boy realizes he worried about that for nothing. He then turns his attention back to the fire and wonders if the meat is ready yet. After the meal, he says that after a rest, they will go look for the plant. Tired from the journey, the protagonist lies down to regain his energy. While he sleeps, his slime friend watches him with a thoughtful expression. The small creature seems very worried about something it saw there in the cave. With his friend asleep, the slime stares into the darkness of the dungeon with great attention. With a determined look, the little creature faces the darkness of the cave ahead. With that, it moves away from its friend and advances alone through the darkness of the dungeon. Suddenly, the young man wakes up startled and realizes his companion has disappeared. Sitting at the campsite, he calls for his friend and wonders where he could be now. Worried, he gets up and shouts the slime's name, hoping for some response. Standing in the middle of the cave, he suddenly has an important memory about that place. He remembers when he was a child and was forced to abandon his friend in that very same spot. With a sad look, the young man realizes that place was a painful memory for the slime. He feels very guilty for having brought the little creature back to that place. Angrily, he slaps himself and says he needs to find his friend as quickly as possible. Looking into the darkness, he concentrates to try to sense his companion's presence. After a few seconds, he finally manages to sense his slime friend's location. But the young man is very confused because the presence is coming from a strange place in the cave. Walking through the dungeon, he looks for the path to where his friend seems to be heading. He wonders why he feels the slime's presence coming from a dead-end wall. Touching the wall, he is sure that his friend passed through that spot somehow. Without a second thought, the young man runs toward the wall to try to pass through it too. But to his surprise, he passes through the wall and falls face first on the other side. Lying on the ground, he realizes that it wasn't a wall but a secret entrance. He then wonders who would build something like this and what they were trying to hide. Suddenly, the boy looks ahead and is shocked by what he sees in that place. Kneeling on the ground, he continues to look ahead with an expression of pure surprise. The scene then reveals a huge and ancient temple hidden inside that dungeon. The young man wonders what a temple is doing there, but feels the slime's presence coming from it. With that, he runs toward the building and calls for his friend to find him soon. Without hesitation, the protagonist enters the mysterious temple to look for the little creature. Suddenly, the little slime appears from a corner, observing its friend's arrival. Already inside the temple, the young man enters a lit hall and calls for his companion. He finally finds the little creature and asks why it ran off like that. But the little slime just blinks with a smile, as if it were happy to see him there. Suddenly, the little creature hands him the bright blue flower, leaving him very surprised. With a smile, he recognizes the plant and is very happy to have finally found it. A system window reveals that it's the flower that cures all diseases with its power. Excited, he praises his friend and says he was amazing for finding the flower on his own. With a smile, he says that now they can finally cure their dear friend's mother. But the young man scolds him, saying it's very dangerous to go out alone like that. He then says that next time, his friend can count on his help for whatever is needed. The small creature seems a bit sad about the scolding it received from its friend. A scene shows the slime alone in front of the blue flower on a stone altar in the temple. It stares at the plant with a very serious expression, as if talking to someone. Suddenly, a woman with horns appears and says it's been a while since they've seen each other. She then approaches and asks if his life with humans is really good. With a smile, she asks if he came to steal from her and challenge the dungeon goddess. But the little creature glares at her with a determined and angry look on its face. The woman laughs and mocks him for trying so hard for a simple human. The woman says she can't just hand over such a precious flower so easily. She then asks if the little creature is saying it will take the flower by force if necessary. With a defiant look, the goddess asks if the little monster thinks it can. Without fear, the slime glares at her with a determined look, ready for anything. The goddess then seems to think for a moment about the determination the creature is showing. On the other side, the little slime doesn't look away and continues to stare at the woman. Suddenly, she laughs and says she was just kidding, and asks if she was too mean. With that, the woman tells him to take the flower because she has no reason to stop them. The little creature is surprised, and the goddess tells him to go before she changes her mind. Finally free, the little slime approaches the blue flower to get it. The creature takes the plant with great joy, and the goddess comments on its happiness. She then tells him not to get too excited because one day they will be separated again. With a happy sound, the slime seems to completely disagree with what the woman just said. The goddess smiles and comments that he remains pure, and that he still believes in humans. Finally, she turns and asks if he has already forgotten how he was abandoned by them. She says that humans will use him and then throw him away as if he were nothing. But the little creature makes a sound, and the goddess asks what he meant by that. With that, the woman realizes that the young man is a friend and not just its master. Finding the situation amusing, she tells him to take the flower and go back to his friend. Happily, the little creature runs to find its companion outside the temple. The goddess then watches the young man holding his little friend with a smile on his face. She continues to watch the two with a very serious and thoughtful expression. Meanwhile, the protagonist smiles at his companion, who seems very happy with everything. The woman then seems to reflect on the strong friendship the two share. A memory shows the goddess sitting while the slime was alone in front of her. In the memory, the little creature was crying with sadness for being abandoned by everyone. Back in the present, the woman smiles mysteriously, observing the scene. She then says that their meeting was destiny, but also a great curse. With a serious look, she tells him to enjoy the curse while it still lasts. The scene then cuts back to the hospital during the beautiful city sunset. Back at the hospital, our hero runs desperately through the corridors with his friend. With a look of pure anguish, he hopes it's not too late to help. He continues to run as fast as he can, hoping to arrive in time to deliver the flower. As he approaches the room, he suddenly stops upon seeing something that leaves him very shocked. The young man then sees his friend standing in front of the door with a desolate expression. With tears in her eyes, the young woman seems to have lost all the hope she had left. Our hero is speechless and thinks that maybe he didn't arrive in time to help. With a heavy heart, he wonders if all his effort in the dungeon was in vain. The thought of having arrived too late leaves him completely devastated and shattered. He then watches the girl crying alone in the hallway, not knowing what to say to her. The young woman continues to cry with her head down, as if her world had collapsed. With a sad look, the young man and his friend don't know how to console the girl. He then remembers the day he lost his parents and the pain he felt while waiting. Suddenly, the young woman lifts her head and realizes her friend was there the whole time. The girl is surprised to see him, and he asks what happened to her mother. The young woman says her mother is in critical condition, but for now there's still a chance. Suddenly, an alarm sounds, and the monitor shows that the patient's vital signs have flatlined. Startled, the girl turns and realizes that something very serious has happened in that room. Without a second thought, the young woman runs inside, screaming her mother's name desperately. Our hero stands paralyzed in the hallway, not knowing what to do in such a tense situation. Inside the room, the girl's mother is lying in bed, appearing lifeless. The friend cries beside the bed while the father and doctors watch everything with sadness. From the doorway, he observes the family gathered in that moment of pure pain and desperation. The doctor and nurse look at the patient with expressions of those who can no longer help. With a look of defeat, the doctor seems to confirm that there is no hope left for her. The father then hugs his daughter, trying to comfort her amidst all the suffering. Our hero feels helpless and remembers the pain he felt when he lost his parents. A memory shows the day he was left kneeling and alone in the world forever. But he won't let his friend go through that, so he throws his backpack on the floor. With that, he takes the blue flower out of the backpack and says he can save her with its power. He shouts that he can save her and shows the blue flower that came from an SS-ranked dungeon. The doctor turns to them and says that unfortunately there's no more time for anything. Shocked, the girl and her father just stare at him, and he asks them to use the plant quickly. The nurse asks him to be quiet, but the boy insists that the flower can cure her. He begs her to believe him, but the woman tells him to stop making a scene. The businessman is confused and wonders what that boy really is. With eyes full of tears, the friend remembers a promise she made with him. In the memory, he says that if he came back from the SS dungeon, she wouldn't mess with the bully. She replies that she believed in him from the beginning and is glad he came back safely. Back in the present, our hero faces everyone with a very determined look. With a look full of tears, the girl seems to believe her friend completely. Suddenly, the young woman stands in front of him and asks the nurse to wait a moment. She then asks the woman to believe what the young man says and begs for her help. With that, the girl bows to the doctor and asks him to use the flower on her mother. With a desperate look, the young woman pleads once more for them to save her mother's life. But the doctor says he can't use an unknown flower without confirming its safety. With that, the father says he takes responsibility and asks to give the plant to his wife. The doctor is speechless and stares at the man with an expression of total surprise. The young woman then shouts for him to hurry, as the monitor still shows nothing. The scene then cuts to outside the hospital, showing that some time has passed. The doctor's voice asks the nurse to check the vital signs every 30 minutes. Back in the hallway, the businessman runs to the doctor and asks about his dear wife. He explains that her vital signs have stabilized but that they need more tests. Relieved, the father asks if she is recovering, and the doctor says the situation is good. Inside the room, the girl gives thanks while watching her mother sleeping in the hospital bed. In the waiting room, the man thanks our hero very much for everything he did for them. With a smile, the young man says he's happy, and the father bows, thanking him once more. The man then says he did something very dangerous and that he could regret it forever. But he thanks him again and says that the young man gave them the hope they had lost. With a smile, he says he didn't do anything and that it was his slime friend who found the flower. The man says he wants to repay them one day, but the young man tells him not to worry. Suddenly, the girl screams for her mother and the two run to the room very worried. But to their surprise, the woman is sitting up in bed and seems to be completely fine. With that, the young man and the girl's father are shocked and relieved by what they are seeing. The friend then cries with happiness and is grateful that her mother is finally well and safe. The mother apologizes for worrying her and the father cries with relief beside her bed. Our hero is very happy with the result and congratulates his little slime friend. The doctor then approaches and tells the nurse that a true miracle has happened. He asks the woman to check the vital signs and prepare a full examination of the patient. The protagonist is thoughtful and repeats the word miracle while observing the family. He remembers when he prayed for such a miracle but wasn't answered at that time, but now he sees the happy family and realizes that the miracle has finally truly happened. With that, he decides to leave because that was a moment for the family to be together. He then walks down the hospital corridor and says it's time for them to go home. On the way back, he pedals down a street full of trees, looking very satisfied. As he pedals, he talks to his friend about his confused feelings of happiness. He then reveals that he wonders if he could have saved his parents if he had met the slime sooner. Angry with himself, he scolds himself for having such useless thoughts at that moment. Suddenly, his cell phone starts to vibrate in his pocket, drawing his attention to the device. With that, the young man picks up the device and sees that he's receiving an important call. Sitting at a bus stop, he answers the call and hears his friend's voice on the other end. The young woman excitedly says that her mother's recovery was truly a great miracle. With a smile, he says he's very happy for her and that he always knew everything would be fine. The girl then asks where he is and says her mother wants to thank them personally. The young man then replies that he's already on his way back to his house at that moment. In a slightly sad tone of voice, the young woman says she wished she could talk to him more. He then suggests that they meet when her mother is discharged from the hospital. With a smile, the young woman agrees with the idea and seems to want to say something more. With an emotional look, the boy thanks her and says he's truly grateful for everything. He then calls her by her name, seeming to want to express all his feelings. He then thanks her for believing in him until the end of that whole situation. With that, the call ends, and the young woman puts her phone away with a smile on her face. At the hospital, the mother asks where the young man is, and the daughter says he's already left. She explains that they will meet when her mother gets out, and the woman regrets not seeing him. With a smile, the young woman says it's okay, because they will see each other again soon. Back on the road, the protagonist pedals happily with his slime friend on his shoulder. He then tells himself to stop worrying and just enjoy the good news. Excited, he calls his companion and says they are going to eat something delicious at home. But suddenly, he stops the bike with a look of pure panic on his face. With his hands on his head, he remembers that he had many other things to do today. The scene then cuts to his apartment and he apologizes for the late rent. He bows to the landlady and hands her a bag as a formal apology. The woman smiles and tells him not to worry because a small delay is nothing. With a smile, she accepts the snacks he brought and thanks him for the kind gesture. But with a shrewd look, she asks him to give her a heads up next time. With his hands together, the young man promises he'll be more careful with the rent next time. The woman just laughs at his reaction, and the scene then cuts to another part of the city. In front of a cafe, the manager asks if he's really going to quit his part-time job. The woman is sad, and he apologizes for not telling her sooner about his new job. The manager then appears, excited, and asks if the young man is going to become a ranker, which is amazing. The man jokes that he's carefree and asks him not to forget them when he gets strong. Outside, the boy says goodbye and thanks them for everything while they invite him to come back. With a smile on his face, he walks away from the cafe, and the couple watches him leave. The woman worries about the young man, but the manager says there's no reason to worry. He then says the boy has a reliable family, and so he'll definitely be fine. The scene then cuts back to the hospital, showing an IV bag in the mother's room. The girl tells her mother how the protagonist slammed the table and shouted at the whole class. She explains that he can be strange but never lies, and the mother comments on their friendship. With a smile, the young woman says she's happy just thinking about him, and the mother asks her to tell her more. In a memory, she says she met him at the beginning of high school in the same class. She says he was the only one with a sad face in the room, but that was normal because of his parents. The young woman says she was also going through a tough time with her mother's hospitalization. Because of this, she felt that the two of them were similar and had a special connection. For that reason, she was the one who took the initiative and spoke to him first in the classroom. And because he acted to help her in such a sincere and completely unexpected way, the girl knew she could trust him and that he was a really good person. The mother smiles and says she's grateful he saved her life and for making her daughter smile. With a smile, the young woman comments that he's a bit mysterious from time to time, and that sometimes he does completely unexpected and nonsensical things. She says this worries her, but he always seems very reliable. The friend also comments that he has a very trustworthy look all the time no matter what happens, and that's why just thinking about him already brings a big smile to her face. The mother says that the most important person is the one who can make us truly laugh. The girl is surprised and asks if her father was capable of making someone laugh like that. The mother smiles and says that seeing that stubborn man being gentle was funny and cute. Excited, the young woman agrees and says that the protagonist is exactly the same way. With a smile, the mother reveals that it was at that moment that she began to love her father. The word love then echoes in the girl's mind, making her reflect on her feelings. Her mom then reveals that it was from that moment on that she fell in love with her dad. Hearing this, the young woman turns completely red, totally speechless at the revelation. She gets all awkward and says that she and the guy are just good friends. But the older woman just watches her with an all-knowing smile. With a grin, she seems to find her daughter's reaction hilarious. The young woman gets even redder and insists that it's not what it looks like. Suddenly, the girl's dad bursts into the room, all excited, and says he brought sushi. However, seeing the scene, the man gets embarrassed, thinking he was being weird. He then hands over the food, and his daughter thinks she's never seen her parents act like that before. With that, the girl uses the excuse of getting some water to leave the room. In the hallway, she fills a glass and says that the whole thing was pretty surprising. While drinking, the young woman reflects that she never knew her dad had that side to him. Just then, the man calls out to her, and she ends up spitting all the water right in his face. The girl totally panics, but her dad tells her to chill out, that it's all good. He hands her a cell phone and says it was her mom's idea so she'd have a way to communicate. The young woman holds the new phone, thinking about everything her mom said. At that moment, her dad mentions that his wife also told him he felt the same way back then. The man then complains that the two of them are ganging up on him and that he didn't even want to give her the phone. The girl looks at the device with a smile on her face, seeming really happy with the gift. Without wasting a second, she calls her friend and tells him that her mom's test results came back great. The next day, the young woman is waiting for the guy in a park, wearing a really nice outfit. Our hero arrives and asks if she's been waiting long by herself. With a smile, she says she just got there, and the guy thinks to himself that she looks absolutely amazing today. The girl asks where Puron is, and he replies that the slime is snoozing in his backpack. The MC then invites her to sit for a bit, and she immediately accepts. Sitting on the bench, the two have a drink, and she comments on how perfect the weather is. They continue chatting and enjoying the moment together in the sunny park. The girl asks why he's in such a good mood, and he says it's because of her mom. She's touched by his answer and gives him the sweetest smile. The guy says he was happy he could help using the power he awakened within himself. He then says he's really glad he could be useful with his newly awakened power. Suddenly, the backpack on the bench starts wiggling from side to side, and to the pair's surprise, the little yellow creature pops out of there with a big smile. The little slime starts jumping for joy, and our hero asks if he's happy too. Just then, a guy with a camera shows up and snaps a picture of the trio of friends. The camera then instantly prints out the photo, and he catches it in his hand. The man walks over and says he'll give them the photo as a gift because they look like such good friends. With that, he hands the photograph to our hero, who takes it, looking a little confused. The pair then looks at the image together to see how it turned out. With a smile, the guy comments that the photo turned out great and was a really good shot. He then compliments his friend, saying she looks especially beautiful in the photograph. Excited, the girl invites the two of them to play together around the sunny park. Our hero and his slime buddy seem really happy with the girl's fun idea. With that, the three of them start running and playing together, enjoying the sunny day. After a while, they stop at a shop, and she puts a pair of bunny ears on him. They also go to the movies and watch a film while sharing popcorn. Afterwards, they stop at a restaurant to eat some delicious ramen and have a good time. Next, they grab some ice cream, and the little creature decides to steal a bite from the guy. As night falls, the two of them walk back home after a very fun-filled day. They look at each other with smiles, seeming really happy with the date they had. The guy then remembers that she wanted to tell him something important that day. Inside the backpack, the little slime is sleeping peacefully, oblivious to everything happening. The girl starts to say that he's helped her with so many important things, and because of that, she's always thinking about him and is constantly worried about what might happen. But suddenly, a helicopter appears in the sky, interrupting their conversation. Smoke fills the air and the guy shields his slime friend from the sudden chaos. A few men in suits descend from the helicopter, looking super serious and official. The men then land on the street right in front of the startled pair of friends. The couple stares at the group of men, not understanding what's going on in the street. To his surprise, the leader of the group is the receptionist from the Dungeon Association. Our hero wonders why the receptionist is there and in a helicopter of all things. The man says he came in a hurry because word of what he did in the SS dungeon reached the association. Without beating around the bush, he says he's here to officially name our hero an S-rank ranker. The scene then shows the group standing in the middle of the street, facing the pair of friends. Shocked by the news, the guy repeats that he can't be an S-rank ranker. One of the women in the group is skeptical and says he doesn't look tough enough for it. Another guy comments that he heard a rumor that he captured and ate a red dragon. The group leader then says that's why they came to confirm everything in person. With that, he invites him to come with them and take the test to become an S-rank ranker. The man explains that S-rankers are like a nation's military power, which is why they require verification. He then says that if the guy truly has the qualities of an S-ranker, he'll pass easily. The whole group waits for an answer as the man asks if he'll accept the test. The MC's friend then looks at him with a very worried expression on her face. With that, she asks if that test isn't too dangerous for him to take right now. Our hero then seems to consider the proposal with a very calm and serene look on his face. The scene then shows the couple from a wider angle in the middle of the dark street. With a smile, he asks if his friend will trust him one more time. He explains that the test is a once-in-a-lifetime chance to prove what they're both worth. With that, he asks her to believe in them, because they'll definitely pull it off. The guy promises that when he gets back, they'll finish the conversation they started. The girl looks at him with eyes full of affection and trust in what he's saying. With that, our hero turns to the group and says he accepts the test. The helicopter then begins to ascend, carrying the group away into the sky. The man then informs him that they'll be moving to the location by helicopter. From the ground, the girl watches the aircraft disappear into the city's night sky. Already inside the chopper, he waves goodbye to his friend and promises he'll be back soon. With a determined look, she wishes her friend good luck on his journey. In the air, the man says he'll be given a test and a task to complete. He explains that the first test is simple and that he just needs to survive. The man shows a map and says he has 24 hours to reach the final point. The man also says that if he gets hurt or doesn't make it in time, he'll fail. Suddenly, the MC stands up in the middle of the moving helicopter. The aircraft starts to shake, and he just stands there with a very calm expression. The others yell that he hasn't even reached the starting point yet and tell him to sit down. With a smirk, he asks if this place is where the strongest monsters are. He then jumps out of the helicopter, saying that this is the shortest route of all. The other crew members scream in shock, unable to believe he just jumped, but suddenly a pair of golden wings appears on his back and he soars through the sky. Below him, several monsters watch him with very menacing looks. With his hands together, he begins to concentrate a massive amount of golden energy. With a yell, he unleashes a blast of light that illuminates the entire canyon with its power. The explosion of golden light is so powerful it even reaches the bottom of the canyon. The impact of the blow makes the helicopter tremble, and everyone inside screams in terror. The group leader is stunned and wonders what incredible technique that was he just used. A woman replies that there's no longer any sign of A-class monsters, and the man is flabbergasted. The group leader wonders if he wiped out dozens of A-class monsters with a single blow. Inside the helicopter, everyone is in shock, and the man says he's never seen power like that. He then comments that if the story about the SS dungeon is true, the guy is way stronger than an S rank. Suddenly, one of the women yells that there are still a few monsters alive down in the canyon. Our hero then turns towards the last remaining monster and prepares to attack. And out of the darkness emerges a giant snake-like monster with sharp teeth. The creature then glares at the guy in the sky and gets ready to attack with all its might. Unfazed, the MC prepares to unleash another of his powerful strikes. His slime friend then wraps the giant creature with its body in a spiral attack. With that, he unleashes the supreme spiral attack, which causes a huge explosion of energy. The blow is so powerful that the giant creature explodes into a million pieces in the air. With the area cleared, he flies back to the helicopter to finish the test once and for all. Back on the chopper, he asks if he still needs to go to the finish line, and they all yell that the test is already over. With that, the helicopter flies away, and the man says that if he passes the next mission, he'll be promoted. The man then reveals that his promotion mission is to hunt the Crab King in a dungeon at the bottom of the sea. The guy asks if it's just hunting the crab and says it sounds easier than he thought. The man says the dungeon is A rank, but hunting the Crab King is an S rank mission. Our hero then asks why it's so difficult, and the man begins to explain the reason. The scene shows the helicopter flying over a vast, dark, and mysterious ocean. The group continues to sit in silence as the group leader explains the whole situation. One of the men asks if the guy is okay since it's an S rank mission and very difficult. The woman says the mission's level is completely different from anything he's ever done before. With a confident smile, he says it's all good because Piran is by his side. The little slime seems to agree and strikes a confident pose to show off its strength. The pilot then announces that they're approaching the dive point and to get ready. With a determined look, our hero says he's ready for whatever comes his way. With that, the guy and his friend jump from the helicopter towards the dark, deep sea. He continues to fall and prepares to enter the water and begin his new mission. While in midair, he asks his friend for help so they can enter the water safely. The little slime then envelops him in a bubble that allows him to breathe and move underwater. With that, the duo dives straight into the dark and deep water of the ocean. At the bottom of the sea, they find a huge and ancient submerged structure. The guy is surprised and says there really is a dungeon at the bottom of the sea. Suddenly, his slime friend begins to transform into a stingray to swim. Our hero holds onto him and asks what the little creature is planning to do. With a serious look, the little monster begins to concentrate a large amount of energy. It then releases a light so bright that it illuminates the entire ocean around them. The glow is so intense that the MC has to close his eyes for a moment. The screen explains that it's nuclear fusion, a skill that creates light and heat. Excited, he praises his friend and says that applying skills like that is incredible. With the path lit up, the duo begins to advance through the underwater dungeon. They then explore the corridors of the mysterious and ancient sea dungeon. The guy comments that everything here is new, and so the feeling is very strange. He then wonders if this is even the real entrance to the place. With that, he decides to go check it out to find out what lies deeper inside. The bubble then rises to the surface of a lake inside the submerged dungeon. With that, the guy exits the bubble and lands safely on the shore of the lake. He's impressed with the place and can't believe a space like this exists underwater. But he finds the silence of the place strange, and feels that something could appear at any moment. Sitting on the edge of the lake, the MC watches the water as some strange monsters surround him. Suddenly, his slime friend alerts him to a danger, and he asks what's wrong. From the water, several creatures with huge mouths and sharp teeth emerge, ready to attack. The guy and his friend are on high alert as they watch the monsters approaching them. The little slime then uses its body like a whip to attack the creatures. With a single strike, it creates a wave of energy that throws all the monsters back into the water. After the attack, the creatures fall back into the water and the area is completely clear and safe. With a smile, our hero thanks his friend for saving him yet again. The little creature seems very happy and makes a sound to show its satisfaction with the result. With the path clear, he says that if they keep this up, they'll do just fine on the mission. The duo then continues their journey through the corridors of the mysterious underwater dungeon. As they advance, they defeat several monsters that appear along the way without any trouble. The little slime uses an energy beam to slice the monsters in half with precision. Next, it uses its body to crush another monster that tried to ambush them. With the area cleared, the guy runs past the bodies of the defeated monsters on the dungeon floor. Excited, he points ahead and says that's where the dungeon's boss room is. With a smile, he asks if his friend is ready for the battle that awaits them. Suddenly, a giant creature emerges from the water with a threatening glare and red eyes. The monster reveals itself to be a massive crab with a very tough shell. The creature snaps its claws forcefully, preparing for combat against the duo. With a very strange fighting stance, the monster prepares to attack them with everything it's got. The guy is confused and wonders what kind of weird fighting stance that is. Suddenly, the crab flicks a drop of water into the air and strikes a strange pose. The MC wonders what the monster is trying to do and if it's inviting them in. He doesn't want to get in the water but wonders if they need to go in there to fight. With that, the guy and his friend stand at the water's edge, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, a jet of water hits the MC and throws him forcefully to the side. From the water then emerges a huge swordfish, an A-rank monster ready for a fight. Next, a giant octopus, also A-rank, emerges from the water to attack the duo. The guy warns his friend to be careful, because both monsters are A-rank. With that, the little slime uses its heat ability and cooks both monsters in the water. After the attack, the two monsters are left floating in the water, completely cooked and defeated. The MC and his friend watch the cooked monsters floating on the water's surface. His mouth watering, he says the monsters look delicious and that they could eat them. Suddenly, the Crab King's giant claw strikes him and slams him to the ground with great force. The little slime is surprised and worried to see its friend suddenly attacked. In a lot of pain, the guy grabs the monster's claw and stares at it with a serious look. He then realizes the situation could be very dangerous and needs to act fast. With a look of rage, the Crab King prepares to crush the guy with its claw. Trapped in the claw, he tries to reassure his slime friend, who seems very worried about him. With a confident smile, he tells the little creature that he's fine and that he'll get out of this. With that, the Crab King hurls him forcefully against the dungeon wall. The little slime becomes furious upon seeing its friend being thrown like that. The monster then stomps hard on the dungeon floor, preparing its attack. With that, the Fear of Death ability activates, and the slime unleashes a dark aura. A purple smoke envelops the Crab King, leaving it completely paralyzed. The monster starts foaming at the mouth and seems to be suffering from the skill's effect. The guy comments that the slime used a lot of power that time to stop the monster. With the crab immobilized, he manages to free himself from the giant claw and move away. With an excited shout, he says that now is their chance to end this. The little slime seems to agree and prepares to use one of its abilities. With that, it activates the mithril transformation, and its body turns blue and shimmering. Already transformed, it flies towards the giant monster to attack with everything it has. The mithril slime then enters the water and charges at high speed towards the Crab King. With a swift movement, it stretches itself out and prepares for the final blow against the monster. The little creature then strikes the Crab King's body with all its might in a single blow. The attack causes a massive explosion of energy inside the giant monster's body. With that, the Crab King begins to sink into the water, completely defeated by the blow. Suddenly, the MC enters the water to check the outcome of the battle. He then finds the monster's body floating upside down in the water. The guy approaches the defeated crab to confirm his victory. With a serious look, he asks his friend if they really defeated the monster. The little slime returns to its normal form and confirms that the battle is finally over. Excited, the MC says they should take the crab because it looks pretty tasty. The slime then reverts to its yellow form and prepares to use one of its abilities. With a quick move, it begins to swallow the enormous body of the Crab King. After swallowing the monster completely, the little creature transforms into a cute version of it. With the crab on its head, the little creature floats in the water with a victorious smile. The guy then runs his hand over the slime's body to check if it's okay. He's surprised because there isn't a single scratch, and not even S-rankers can do that. With a smile, he thanks his friend and says he's the best of all. With the mission complete, he says it's time for them to finally go home. The little slime then returns to the water's surface and lands safely on the ground. In the helicopter, the group waits anxiously for the guy's return from the mission. One of the men is worried and waves to the outside of the chopper, waiting for him. Another guy suggests they call for backup because the mission is too dangerous for him. But the group leader tells them to have faith and wait, because the guy is strong. Suddenly, the water begins to stir, and a ripple appears on the surface. One of the men points to the water and tells everyone to look over there. To everyone's surprise, the MC emerges from the water on top of the Crab King's body. The entire group is completely shocked to see the guy with the giant monster. One of the guys can't believe it and wonders how he managed to catch the Crab King. The woman then realizes that a true S rank has appeared right in front of them. The guy shouts for them to lower the rope so he can tie up the monster. With that, one of the men gives the order to notify headquarters and lower the rope for him. The helicopter then drops a rope and the MC grabs it to tie up the crab. The man congratulates him and says that he is now a true S rank ranker. Excited by the news, the guy says thanks and is overjoyed with his promotion. With a smile, he asks his friend if he heard that because he's an S ranker now. The little slime is so happy that it starts jumping for joy at the news. He then asks his friend if he's okay because he looks pretty tired. The guy says he's fine and invites him to eat a lot later on. The little slime seems to agree with the idea and lets out a happy squeal. With that, the MC says that tonight they're going to have a celebration party. The group leader finds it strange that an S ranker is as carefree as he is. With the mission complete, the helicopter takes the Crab King's body to the association. The aircraft then lands on the rooftop of the Dungeon Association for the ceremony. The man announces that our hero has been appointed as an S ranker of the Tachikawa branch. With his friend on his shoulder, the MC faces the group with a very calm expression. The group leader apologizes for the rush and asks them to take good care of the guy. To his surprise, everyone bows to him and congratulates him on his great achievement. With his friend on his shoulder, the MC watches the scene with a very calm expression. Everyone applauds and congratulates him on his great achievement at the Dungeon Association. The guy gets a little embarrassed with all the attention he's receiving from them. He thinks that this is the first time in his life he hasn't been looked down on, and it's also the first time he's been genuinely celebrated by so many people. With a determined look, the MC prepares to give a speech to everyone. He says that he's still an inexperienced S ranker, but he will take on the responsibility. One of the men calls him the pride of the branch and says he's a true S ranker. The group leader explains that he will now receive the treatment and rewards of an S ranker, but he warns that since the guy is a minor, the official announcement will be postponed. The man also says that receiving all of this means taking on more responsibilities. Our hero then falls silent for a moment, seeming to reflect on everything. With a thoughtful expression, he continues to listen to the group leader's speech. He then says he lacks confidence even as an S ranker because all the power belonged to the slime. The group leader looks at him with a serious expression upon hearing the guy's confession. The man asks why he thinks the slime made a contract with him. With a sad look, the guy says it's because the little creature chose him for it. The man says it's because he has a strong power, and that alone proves his strength. With a determined look, the guy stares up at the sky with a bit more confidence. The little slime seems to agree with what the man said and lets out a little chirp. With that, the group leader tells him to believe in his own power from now on. He then invites him to go to a special place with him that very afternoon. The two arrive at a fancy restaurant, and the guy wonders about the place. He's shocked and asks if S-rankers have lunch in fancy places like this. Suddenly, a man appears and greets them with a warm welcome to the establishment. With tears in his eyes, the man calls them benefactors and introduces himself as the owner. He then hugs the guy and says he's very honored to meet them in person. The group leader thanks him for the invitation, and the man invites them into the restaurant. At the table, they are met with a delicious banquet full of different dishes. The MC is shocked by the fancy food, and his friend seems very excited. The man tells them to eat as much as they want and that he owes them a great debt. The group leader reveals that the restaurant owner was the one who requested the Crab King. The guy is surprised and confirms if the man was really the client for the mission. The owner invites our hero to eat, but the hungry slime tries to attack the food. After eating, the slime finally seems satisfied, and the guy apologizes. The guy thanks him for the meal and says everything was absolutely delicious and well made. He then asks if the request for the crab was for the restaurant's cuisine. The owner says that's one of the reasons, but there's a more important reason behind it. He explains that he needed the crab to make a special dish for someone. Our hero is curious and repeats that the dish was for just one important person. The man reveals that the person helped him for a long time. and he wanted to return the favor. With that, the guy is happy and says that cooking for someone special is a wonderful thing. With a smile, he thinks the owner's gesture is really cool and inspiring. The man then asks if the MC also has someone important in his life. With a serious look, he advises him not to hide his feelings for that person. The man says that when you get old, the only thing you regret is not having expressed yourself. With that, the MC seems to have a major revelation about his feelings. At that moment, he remembers his friend and all the moments they spent together. With a determined look, he thinks of the girl's name and everything she's done. Suddenly, he stands up and says he just remembered an important promise. With the man's permission, he thanks him and says his goodbyes to leave with his friend. The restaurant owner is left alone at the table and continues to drink his tea calmly. He comments that the guy is young, but it's incredible for him to be an S-ranker and to have completed the mission. The group leader says that he's the talk of the town at the Dungeon Association. He explains that there's no precedent for a minor S-ranker, and the owner makes a request. The man asks them to take good care of the boy so that he doesn't get hurt in the future. Meanwhile, our hero runs down the street and says he'll remember the advice he received.